Hey guys.
Live from New York.
Live
Just kidding.
from New Orleans.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm Ember, and with me today is Bad Priestess, aka McCalla Ann.
Hi.
And she's a wonderful fire artist, along with you play ukulele, you sing. Tell us what else you do.
I do embroidery, some like stitch work. I'm hoping to get that out into the city by the end of the summer, but right now it's mostly just like things I give my friends.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So she's a performing, visual, and audio artist. All around the board.
All the fun things.
So you brought your ukulele today. So if you don't mind, let's just warm up the audience with a little happy tune, or maybe not happy, whatever you're into.
Okay.
All right, welcome everybody. The one, the only, Bad Priestess.
You and I can do this about 100 times before, and we'll make it through the night, and we'll make it to the West Coast shore, singing on the streets, dreaming of Vancouver nights, dark sky till the sky's leading, raccoons light, and I'll live savage and free, reckless and wild. I don't need anybody. I'm a forest child. I'll trace my cuts and circles in the mud. Something's boiling in my blood. All this poison in my blood is seeping deep down through my veins, racing straight to my heart, causing the pain that will remain. But this red string in my hand, a spell I must have cast. I know you'll follow back to me, and I'll never take you back. And I'll live savage and free, reckless and wild. I don't need anybody. I'm a forest child. I'll trace my cuts and circles in the mud. Something's boiling in my blood.
Beautiful. Wow. Is that original or is that
No, it's a cover. It's by a band called Stick and Poke. They're these two like traveling witches
Oh,
from
nice.
Canada.
I like
Yeah,
it. I can
thank
relate to
you.
some of the lyrics, and it's interesting that you chose that song with all the witchy elements in it.
Yeah.
Because you work at a witch shop.
Yeah, I work at a witch shop. I'm a practicing chaos witch, I like to call myself. But yeah, that's why I resonate with that song. I like anything that makes me feel magical and powerful. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you emanate that anyway.
thank you.
And I don't know if you can tell, but she's tiny, but she's like powerful.
It's true. And I take up a lot of room.
With her energy.
Yes.
And I just realized, New Orleans is very progressive, and a lot of people you don't know by looking at them. So I called you she and her, but is that what you identify with?
Yeah, she, her, or they, them. Either one is pretty
Okay.
fine. I mean, yeah, my thing is like I have my days where I feel more masculine and days when
Yeah.
I feel more feminine, but I definitely identify with the struggle of being a woman, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I can't just discard that identity, I feel like.
Yeah,
So
definitely. I super identify with that because being a female, if you're not female, you may not understand, but you may see us struggling with everyday things like being catcalled a lot on the street and having to stand up for ourselves when people are not taking us seriously and things like that.
yeah.
So speaking of which, do you feel like that's something that you go through on the daily in New Orleans or wherever you've been?
Absolutely. Even just today, like I ordered food from, I'm not gonna say the name of the place,
All right.
but I ordered food and I don't know, like I I guess the guy that delivered my food was immediately like, you person. And they waited until they got off of their work to come back to my job and ask me if they could be my friend and follow me on Instagram and like all that. Like just today, this literally just happened.
It's kind of weird.
I know. I
Made
was
an
like,
impression, huh?
I guess so. All I was trying to do was eat some fucking veggies, man.
Just give her the vegetables. So this, I lost my train of thought. I can edit that out. Technology. So this channel is about how your mental health affects your art and how your art affects your mental health, just in a broad, general way. What comes to mind for you and your personal experience with those things?
Well, I think like I have experiences of both, quite honestly. So, for example, my fire performing and my hula hooping is really something that came into my life as like something that saved my life and something that I continue to do because it is so therapeutic and beneficial for me in that way. Whereas my embroidery, part of the reason why it's not available anywhere in the city is because it does take, if I am too depressed to like sit down and just like stitch for hours, like it's never going to get done. Right. And so then I just never end up with enough like stock to like make it worthwhile to have it anywhere.
But if you had one big giant one that said, go fuck yourself, you could sell it for $1,000.
I should do that. Right now I'm working on a piece. It's like a sunflower, and then around the sunflower it says eat shit.
Nice. That's a very happy, upbeat message. And these will be available later in the summer, right?
I'm hoping so, yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. I need that.
I know, right?
I have seen where people have taken quotes from funny movies like Friday, the kitchen scene where he's like, why every time I'm in the kitchen, you in the kitchen eating up all the goddamn food?
Yeah.
And like embroidered that.
I love those.
Yeah.
I love the funny embroidery. I feel like that's what inspired me to, well, first I was making vaginas, a lot of vaginas and like pads and period blood, and like that was where it started. But then I was like, why don't I like also make like pretty flowers and just like really crude comments around the flowers instead of just like making a bunch of vaginas.
Yeah.
Although I think people want the vagina art too, quite frankly.
Definitely. Who doesn't want a lovely embroidered vagina?
I agree. I agree.
It's like Georgia O'Keeffe in the modern version, I guess. Yes. So have you ever been diagnosed with a mental disorder or sought therapy for any struggles that you were going through?
Yes. So my dad has bipolar disorder, and my mom is borderline. So of course they had me in and out of therapy trying to figure out like, is she gonna have it? Is she gonna be crazy too?
Yeah.
You know, and no, I never was diagnosed with either of those, but I've over and over and over again been diagnosed with like severe anxiety disorder. Okay. So like I have really severe social anxiety, like really severe like I've had acute agoraphobia. Yeah. Is that the word? Yeah. I've like gone in and out of phases of that different times in my life. I've been diagnosed with like acute depression, but supposedly according to a bunch of professionals, my anxiety is worse than my depression. But I'm like, they're the same.
How do you gauge that?
Yeah, like one exacerbates the other. So like I'm not really sure, but okay, you're the professional, I'm sure. Whatever. Right. But yeah. So just very severe anxiety issues, I guess.
Well, then I want to congratulate you for being here in this room when we don't know each other very well.
It's true. Yeah, I was like a little bit hoping that you wouldn't answer the door when I knocked on the door, right? But you did, and so I'm here now.
I have that every time I go to meet somebody, even if I've known them a while and I love them and I want to hang out with them. It's like, maybe they'll cancel, maybe something will fall through.
Oh, like,
my husband and I are poly, and we just reopened our relationship. And yesterday I was supposed to have my first date in like 4.5 months. And I was actually excited that it fell through, but I was still crabby about it too.
I totally understand.
I was like, fuck everything. It was a combination of feelings.
I know those feels all too well. Yeah, I will be like waiting to go hang out with like a friend or like a person for like all week. And then an hour beforehand, I'm like, how can I get out of this? Like,
Right.
yeah, I'm like, am I sure that like it's not okay to just sit and watch anime?
What kind of anime do you watch? Do you have favorites or?
I definitely prefer the more like esoteric, like philosophical anime.
Okay.
I've kind of like aged out of the Shonen Jump style anime, although Naruto will always have a soft spot in my heart.
She's geeking out on me. I don't know any of this.
You asked the question.
I did. Oh no. I'm gonna Google it.
That's okay. It's just a silly little. It's more for kids. Naruto is. But well, yeah.
I know my husband reads a lot of anime. Is it anime if it's 2D?
No, it's manga.
Manga. Okay. Well, he reads a lot of that online, and it looks not very interesting, but he can spend hours doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's more about the art and the impact that it has.
It is true that if I'm reading manga or watching anime that I don't like the art, I can't follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah, regardless of the storyline, if the art's bad. But no, I like anime. Honestly, is the reason why I decided to study philosophy, like, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Because a lot of the anime that I was watching was, like, causing me to, like, ask myself all these sorts of, like, I guess, deep questions. And then I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to do this for a living then, now.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Especially if you can make some, like, draw a card deck, one of those decks where you're like
tarot.
Yeah, but like oracle cards or whatever, where you just draw one card a day.
Yeah,
and it has like some philosophy and some manga.
That's actually a really good idea.
Just doing it.
Yeah, well, I'm making a tarot deck right now.
Oh, cool.
I'm like, I've made the major arcana, but there are a lot more minor arcana cards than major. Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily say I'm halfway done, but like, I'm halfway done. Yeah, but that's a really good idea too.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
So what kind of philosophies do you get into? And how has it shaped your personality and what you like to put out to people?
In a lot of ways, philosophy also kind of saved my life in this like bizarre way, because I feel like, a part of like what creates my anxiety are these like absolute thoughts in my head of like, this is scary, or like, this person is bad, or this person hurt my feelings, or you shouldn't do X, or you should do Y. And then through like studying a lot of like, because I like specialized in Buddhist philosophy, which ironically is I did dialectical behavioral therapy as a teenager, and that was really beneficial for me. And DBT is actually based off of Buddhist theory. So then I like went to college and like specialized in kind of like Buddhist philosophy and psychology, which kind of basically taught me to not look at things from like such a dogmatic, like dualistic perspective, and that's really helped. I definitely did go through like extreme existential depression of like, well, if there is no such thing as good or bad, like how can I make any decisions at all?
Right.
But eventually you just kind of get over that, or hopefully you get over it. Yeah. Some things it still kind of scares me, but then I'm just like, don't think about it.
Well, you got to keep going. It's like eventually, I think, well, for me, in any funk that I've ever been in, it's like eventually something's like, all right, this is enough. I was just saying that any funk that I've been in, it's like eventually I'm just like, all right, that's enough of that. Like something has to give, something has to change.
I mean, yeah, like when you say like congratulations on being here and doing this, I mean, that's like a part, like I promised myself in January of 2018, I had spent like the past year really isolating myself and just like really I was at a point where I like didn't really have any friends who like weren't internet friends. Like I was living in New Orleans of all places and never doing anything.
Right.
And I was like, this is over now. Like it's a new year, like you're going to start doing these things that scare you. And like honestly, it really has like been kind of life-changing. Like I'll go through these like kind of like minor panics where I'll be like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to the party. Like I host a weekly fire jam that like when we first started doing it, the like hours would like tick towards the time to go to the fire jam, and I'd be like, why did I agree to do this? But like now it's like one of the highlights of my week. So I don't know. It's just like every time that I force myself to go out and do the thing that scares me, I find it wasn't really as scary as I had convinced myself it was going to be.
Yeah.
So
I had a mentor tell me, just keep doing it till you like it. And that doesn't mean like that applies to everything.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It's just like certain things like that, you know, and things that are good for me. It's like, I don't like vegetables all the time, but just keep doing it till you like it.
I understand.
Now, you mentioned vegetables. Are you vegetarian or vegan?
That's like kind of a recent thing that I've decided to be vegetarian.
Okay. Why is that?
Honestly, so I decided I was given the opportunity to go to Mississippi and participate in a San Pedro ceremony. So it's like kind of like sacred medicine, you know, It's psychedelic, but it's like plant medicine.
Okay.
And while I was on this medicine, we were on a farm and there were a bunch of cows.
Aww.
And I like spent a lot of time with the cows. And I was like, I can't just like sober up, I guess, and like go home and like continue to eat meat when I've like had such bonding moments with these cows. So
yeah,
now I'm really trying to like honor that experience by, because I do believe that our bodies are made to eat meat. Mm-hmm. And I don't think, you know, necessarily I'm not like on board of like vegetarianism or veganism being healthier for you per se, but there's something to be said about the meat industry in our capitalist society that I do agree is toxic and does like perpetuate a lot of things that probably not only shouldn't be in our body, but like shouldn't be done to these animals. And it's like the medicine man who was leading the ceremony kept saying all night, he was like, you know, it's not like back in the old days when we would like kill the animal and like, you know, say thank you to the animal, and like one animal would feed an entire tribe and they'd use every part of the animal. Yeah. Like that's not the society we live in anymore, unfortunately. And
that wasn't like every day.
Exactly.
Either.
They would eat meat like once a month probably.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I were to hunt my own meat, I'd probably eat it. I'd like make an exception. Like if I were, and I know like certain people who are vegan be like, oh my God, she's talking about killing animals. Yes, I mean, that is the way of life. Animals kill other animals.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, like we can't, you know, be above that line of nature, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't really feel comfortable eating meat anymore unless I did kill it myself.
Right. I can relate to that. And I've been vegan and vegetarian a few times, and I felt really great when I was vegan, but I will say I relapsed at Outback eating a ribeye with my bare hands. Because I could not get my protein right. I just couldn't figure it out. And I got burnt out on soy and tofu and peanut butter. But physically and emotionally, I felt really light.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. Like I ate more. Like 6 meals a day. But I felt great.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Just like trying to like load up on like nuts and like beans and like legumes and like nice things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how I could ever be vegan. I eat a lot of cheese. Like I got to admit, I eat a lot of cheese.
Yeah.
But like I'm also like I am trying to gain weight, and like cheese is where I get a lot of my calories.
A lot of fat.
Yeah. It does. And I know, like, I feel bad because the dairy industry is just as toxic as the meat industry. And it's not that I'm unaware of that, but it's also like I've like seen a nutritionist once or twice, and like every time I've gone to see a nutritionist, they've been like, you need to start eating McDonald's hamburgers. Like, if you really want to gain weight, like, you need to actually, like, you know, eat blah, blah, blah. And then I keep, like, putting all these dietary restrictions on myself. And I'm like, I'm never going to gain weight this way.
No.
So I, like, am nervous about cutting out cheese because that's where I get so many of my calories. And I, like, perform all the time. So, you know, I actually need those calories to even just stay the weight that I am now.
And why are you trying to gain weight?
I just am very uncomfortable with how skinny I am, to be honest.
So like some body image stuff.
Yeah, like
I'll give you some of what I have, which is I think I have a tube and a needle.
I wish I'll take it from you. I'll take it from you. You're strong looking though.
I've been working out.
Yeah.
It's helping with my brain chemistry, which
yeah.
is one of the reasons I started doing it. But yeah, if you need any fat, I've got some extra.
Well, I'm lacking, so you know, if you can find some way to give it to me, I'll gladly take it.
I'm gonna Google that too.
Thank you, internet.
Right. But yeah, so your body image issues, or I hate to say issues, I don't know what to call it. But anyway, have you had that for a long time?
Pretty much my whole life, I've hated being small and skinny. I mean, there's something really debilitating about the mentality that you develop when your entire life people are always talking about how easily they could kill you.
Oh, geez.
You know, like before I started working out, people, when they first met me, and this is true, this wasn't just once or twice, this was like a natural thing that a lot of people would do. They would take my arm and go, I could just, you know, like break you in half. And like that was something that I watched happen over and over and over again from a really young age. And I feel like it created some like weird Napoleon complex in me where I felt like I had to like act tougher and be tougher and this, that, and the other, so that people wouldn't just like view me as some sort of prey just because of, you know, my body size and like being so small. And yoga's helped a lot, but I still haven't been able to like gain the muscle that I want. So like it's so bizarre. It's like I'll eat and I'll do yoga and like I won't gain anything. And I don't really understand why. I feel like my body just doesn't want it.
It's genetics, and it's saying you're perfect like you are.
I'm sure that a lot of people tell me that it's crazy that I don't like my body size because they wish that they could look like me. And I was like, well, I don't think that you would feel that way if you had been like viewed as prey your whole life.
Right. I never thought about somebody smaller than me being prey. I have thought like, oh, this person would be like fun to do cool acrobatic stuff with, like acro yoga.
That is fun. Yeah, that is fun. And I do like being a flyer. I do like that I get to be a flyer.
Yeah.
But I've always thought that a really interesting sideshow act would be if I could base somebody really big.
Oh, that would be awesome.
A great sideshow act.
Definitely.
I want to do that.
Well, I'm interested if you make that happen. I would like to see that. I would pay to see that.
I'll let you know when it happens.
I do have a couple friends, and I'll mention their names. Vicky and Todd Smith. They do acro yoga together, and she is very, very strong, but she is a lot smaller, like a third of her husband's size.
Yeah.
And she will fly him. Yes. And it's really, really cool to see that.
Yes.
Because she's just short and little, even though, you know, she's like got a lot of muscle. You just think there's no way she's gonna lift this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people get shocked when I like, because I'm pretty strong too.
Yeah.
I don't think I could base like somebody that was like way bigger than me yet, but I can definitely like lift things that a lot of people, they want to like come help me, and then I'll lift it with ease and they'll look at me like shocked, like,
yeah,
like, yes, I am capable, thank you.
I get that too. Or like even just being a woman.
Woman too, yeah.
You know, oh, I need a man to help me, but like just let me help you. If I suck at it, then I'll let you get somebody else.
Exactly. Honestly, like sometimes I know that I can lift the thing. I just feel lazy. Then I'll make some strongman do it.
I love it. I just, will you please lift it for me? I'm just,
Exactly.
Use your feminine wiles. That's our other strength.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I never thought about that. I do remember when I was in second and third grade, I had a friend that was smaller than me. And I never really thought about it until sixth grade when she seemed to be angry all the time. And she was like kind of aggressive with people. And I was like, I literally was like, what has happened to you? You're so just kind of violent. And she's like, I'm just tired of people bullying me because I'm small.
Yes.
And I didn't realize this was going on with her because when we hung out, we went playing in the creek or the trees or Barbies or whatever it was. And it wasn't, a size comparison thing, and we didn't dress up in clothes and compare ourselves. So I never thought about that with her. And that was my first introduction to, these are small people problems.
Yeah, I've definitely, I had a coworker, my first job in college, where sometimes I would just, lose it with customers and, not in front of them, but, as soon as they'd leave, I'd, go off on some angry tangent.
Yeah.
And one day he was like, you have small people problems. And I was like, oh, well, you're not wrong.
That's interesting. Has that ever affected relationships? Like, have you ever accidentally, and this is kind of getting nitty gritty, but have you ever accidentally snapped at someone close to you when you felt like they were treating you like you were too weak or too small to do something, or were kind of triggering that old stuff for you?
Sure. My mom used to respond to me in violence.
Oh.
So then I definitely developed a little bit of that in romantic relationships, where I was dating a guy that's actually 6'7" or something, 275 pounds, and in my head, I knew that I could kind of hit him in the chest and kind of go off on him, and it wasn't gonna hurt him at all.
Yeah.
And then I started, we broke up, started dating somebody else later who was really comparable in size to me. And one day I did just snap, and I kind of hit him the way that I would have hit Spee. In the back of my head, I'm thinking, this isn't going to hurt you. It's never hurt it. How could I hurt anybody, But I actually did hurt him. And that was when I was like, okay, I have anger issues. I need to really work on this and not respond that way anymore. And then I haven't ever since then, because I of course, I was mortified that I'd actually harmed someone.
Right.
Yeah. But I think it was also really not okay of my first boyfriend. He kind of encouraged that behavior in a way, because he was like, well, yeah, you're not hurting me, so have at it, Wow. Kind of behave. I don't know. Both of the relationships were pretty toxic, but
I mean, I've definitely heard that from a significant other before who had been very muscly, and they're like, if you're angry at me or you hate me right now, just go ahead and hit me. And it's when you present it to me as an option, it's like, oh, well, it makes me look at it like, oh no, I'm gonna feel bad about myself even if you gave me permission.
Yeah.
But in those snap moments, I definitely have also had, hit someone without thinking about it, just that anger comes out. So how did you work on the anger issues?
Yoga. I do a lot of yoga and meditation. And mostly I just started thinking about the things that made me angry differently. I started viewing all of these things that were painful as good things, lessons that were there to help me grow. And in that, then I was no longer angry that these things had hurt me. I was like grateful. Like, okay, well, this sucks, you know, but I'm glad it happened because now I'm a better person because of it. And then like ever since I started looking at things that way, I haven't really struggled with anger in the same way.
Is that part of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but DBT is designed to do that, to reframe thoughts that you have when you get upset, right?
Yeah, it's basically like, you know, not viewing things as black or white. Like, this isn't, so because this hurt me, it is a bad thing. And now I'm angry because this bad thing has happened to me and I'm hurt.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm like, I'm hurt and there are some bad, you know, obviously like something bad happened and that's why I'm hurt. But like, just because it's bad doesn't mean it can't also be good. So like, let's think about the ways in which that this was actually like both like bad and good. And once I started retraining my mind to like look at things that way, I felt like I had like a much better control of my anger, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So last year you said you were isolating a lot. Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, I was getting out of a really severely like toxic and like abusive relationship, and I had like lost 2 really close friends back to back right before I started dating him.
Oh.
And I felt, so I just like, I already felt really isolated. Like he isolated me. Like that was like slightly part of like his goal.
Mhm.
I feel like in a way, like to keep me in the relationship was to further like ostracize me, and like the people that I wanted to hang out with or go do, he would just be like, that's dumb, they don't like you, blah, blah, blah kind of thing, you know? And so then when I broke up with him, I kind of was just like very alone. And then but I also wanted to be alone because I had been spending all my time with this person who was really draining and like negating certain things that made me happy because, you know, I didn't want to do them around him.
Yeah.
You know?
So you were recharging your battery.
I was really recharging my batteries. And I like did, like I went out every now and then. Like I went to Ingolf, the New Orleans burn.
Okay, cool.
And that was like my like first like, I'm leaving my house.
That sounds like a big thing to leave your house. Like you didn't start off small. You're just like, I'm going to this big thing.
That's very like me. I very much like cannonballing into the deep end of the pool instead of like putting my toes in and like easing my. I always feel like that hurt. That not hurts, but like it's colder. It makes you more cold to do that than to just jump into the cold water and warm up really fast. If that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like rip off the Band-Aid.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Just rip it off. That's kind of, yeah. And I mean, right after Ingolf, I made a lot of friends at Ingolf, and then they started like inviting me to parties right away. And I was like, no, I'm not going to your party.
Then I have to look at you and make conversation.
Sometimes it's still hard for me to make conversation. Like I'm really bad at like what I in my head like to call menial conversation,
like weather and
like stuff. Gossip. I'm not a fan of gossip. Like especially like I find sometimes I'll like find myself in a conversation where somebody wants to talk bad about somebody I don't know. And then I'll meet this person and I'll be like, I don't really know if it's like exactly like how you presented it to me. So now I like don't know what to do when I'm put in situations like that. I don't know like what to be like, well, I want to believe you because you're my friend, but like also I just don't really know. So I really wish we weren't having this conversation right now. And those are the kinds of things that make me super anxious and like uncomfortable.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody has their way of processing stuff. So some slight to one person could be a huge deal where another person would be like, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And I found like I've gotten better at getting close to the kinds of people who are more easygoing.
Yeah.
Because I try to be, that's like my goal is to be like a rock in like a steady rock amidst like a flowing stream, and I like
a good visual.
Yeah, and I like to keep people around me who are that way. I feel like I'm better at talking to people who are like that because I just don't know how to relate to people who aren't like that. I don't want to tell them, straight to their face, like, I think you're being, because that makes me uncomfortable.
The confrontation.
I'm not good at confrontation. I don't like being in confrontation. Like, I'm trying really hard to stop telling people things that aren't true for the sake of not having a confrontation.
Oh, yeah, make an excuse or something.
Yeah.
Well, so are you in transition with that now, or are you just, what's the point that you at? Like, are you just kind of silent when somebody's saying something that you don't agree with, or?
Sometimes I've found that I'll either be silent. It depends like how close I am. I might tell them like, I just don't I don't know what to say. Sometimes I'll say that. Oh. Sometimes I'll just be like, I'm sorry you're hurt, that I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I seem to notice, like, if I'm processing something and feeling very victimized by something or someone, then people will say to me, I'm sorry you have that experience. And I'm like, I get what you're saying.
But sometimes I feel like that can come across as condescending.
Yeah, I don't just like, maybe you don't see things like
it
really is,
But that's condescending.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes like there have been times where I've been like, you're both in the wrong. And you're both stupid. But then also, who am I to say that they're stupid? That's about it. I go into these weird, like, introspective, like, philosophical places where I'm like, none of us are right and none of us are wrong, and you're trying to make me pick sides, but no sides exist, and now I'm anxious, and I really wish we weren't having this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So with your mom and your dad both being diagnosed with disorders, what was that like growing up?
It was really difficult. I had a really tumultuous childhood, and there was even periods of time in which I didn't even live with them because it just was that unhealthy.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for some of my secondary parents, I would say, for like being there for me in times when I really needed it. I mean, my dad has like the kind of bipolar, I always forget, but there are like some where you like change moods pretty frequently. Mm-hmm. And then there are some that like extend for like years long at a time kind of thing.
That sounds difficult to live with if you have it.
So, yeah. And I love my dad. My dad is a great person. But when my earliest memories of him are him being really violent and being really angry.
Because you or your mom or
just everyone. Okay. I mean, he never touched me inappropriately, but there were definitely times in which like his anger was terrifying to me.
Right.
And I do remember those things. But at the same time, by the time I was like in elementary school, he had like transitioned kind of into just, he was sad. He was just sad all the time. And like that was him pretty much up until more recently when he's like gotten on a good round of medication and is taking it all the time. And he's like now pretty level. So that's great.
Yeah.
My mom was like a terrible alcoholic, and she would get blackout, binge, and like even to this day, there are things that I have to remind her that she did because she's sober now, which is great. We actually have a relationship. I feel like that's also a part of like why I've been able to ease off being angry, because I was like, wow, good things can happen, you know, like, yeah.
It's great she got sober.
Yeah, and great that we have a relationship, but like she'll still like the other day she tried to tell me like, oh, I was right to kick you out of the house because I needed to teach you a lesson because Lord knows who you would have become if I hadn't have done that. And I was like, are you listening to yourself right now? Like, it was okay for you to kick a 16-year-old out of the house, and you really think that that's why I've been able to turn my life around. Like, that because you did that, now I'm a better person. And I was like, actually, though, like, I'm a better person despite the fact that you did that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's frustrating that, but she has borderline, and she doesn't want to deal with it. Like, my dad is good about, he takes medication every day. He wants to, he goes to therapy. He wants to do all those things. Like, my mom likes to lie to her therapist so that her therapist tells her what she wants to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm borderline too, and I struggle with telling my therapist the complete 100% truth too, because I'm like, it just, I'm over it now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you why.
Yeah.
And I recognize that as a symptom of borderline.
Yeah, it definitely is. And my mom is a great woman. Like, I think that the alcohol was really like the most toxic part of her, and without that, she's definitely, like, when we had this conversation, I was literally like, you need to stop talking right now. And she was like, okay. And she stopped saying all of it,
That's good that you could say that for yourself.
Yeah, I have to. I have to stand up to her. Like, I've always had to stand up to her. That's like always been our relationship. It's just that I've learned to do that in a way that's polite now.
Yeah. But that's really cool, because it's hard for people to stand up to their parents or to say what they're thinking and validate themselves and just say, look, I don't like what you're doing. This is not okay with me. Because when you're around your parents, sometimes you'll slip back into that, or people will slip back into the child version of themselves, because that's your parent.
Yeah, of course. But I think, it helps that my mom listens when I say things like that. Like, I'm sure if I said, you need to stop talking, and she kept trying to nail that point home, that I wouldn't feel so comfortable just outright telling her, like, it's almost like we have a safe word, but it's not a real safe word. It's just me saying, and you've crossed the line,
She gets it. She understands the consequences.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't want to lose me. She definitely does love me, which is really great to know, because for a long time I really didn't think she did.
Yeah.
So it's good to be able to say, like, I went from this place of feeling completely alone in the world, like I was my father's caretaker and my mother didn't even like me, to now my dad is totally stable, and like, I can call him when I need advice. And like, my mom is like one of my best friends. Like, I talk to her on the phone at least once a week.
That's awesome.
I know. Like, I know, like, I'm so blessed. Like, I know there's so many people in this world who had childhoods like me and it didn't work itself out.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's definitely like one of my many blessings for sure. Yeah.
That is really cool. Yeah, it doesn't always work out like that.
It actually rarely works out like that. I don't really know how I ended up with that. I'm sorry. I'm just going to turn this off.
Right.
Oh, I was screwing my shoe.
That works too.
Muffle the sound.
So, were your parents artistic when you were growing up, or where did you get the artistic influence from?
My mom always kept art. Like, people would come over to our house and be like, "It's like you live in a museum," and I feel like, I was always surrounded by art.
Oh.
I also just think, like, I don't know, like, I wasn't into sports. I always sang since I was a little girl. I've always loved music. That's like been my number one. But I just recently started doing like more visual art, simply because New Orleans.
Yeah.
Just like being around all of that. But the funny thing is, in the past 2 years, my mom has started oil painting. And she is like fantastic at oil painting.
Wow.
And it's weird that it's like she never did, like art was never something that she did. It was barely even something she encouraged. Like,
that's interesting.
But now she's like selling her oil paintings to like galleries, and like it's crazy how she's like, I guess it was always in us, like in the family.
Yeah.
You know.
What about your dad? Is he musical or anything?
No, my dad's where I get like the more academic side of me from. Like my dad is
philosophy and stuff.
Yeah, he's like super smart, super driven. He loves like talking about things like that, you know. Yeah, my dad is like, he's more of the academic, and my mom, I guess, is more the creator.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are they still together?
Oh no.
Okay.
No. But they still, you know, stay in slight contact with each other. It's not like a that motherfucker, blah 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 sort of thing.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I know my parents, they still talk every once in a while, simply because of me.
Yeah.
I'm their kid, and I'm that bond that they have.
That's pretty much the reason why my parents talk to each other too, but like they never have anything nasty to say about each other, which is like,
that's good though.
Yeah.
And you don't have to deal with that.
Except if I ever need to complain about my mom, my dad's always on my side. That's nice. It's nice to have someone on your team.
Yeah. So I have a couple questions. I have a couple questions from some other people online who have submitted to this Tangled artist, and they wanted to ask an artist. So my friend Lindsay K. Roble, hi. She says, how do you balance the mundane? And I believe that means like rent, laundry, bills, eating, or if you have another job, with doing art.
I mean, it's definitely such a struggle. And I feel like that's also like a part of why my embroidery always takes the hit. Yeah. I mean, doing my weekly fire jams, that has really helped. Like, because I have a set time every week that I get together with my friends and we spin fire. And I wish that I practiced more.
Mm-hmm.
There was a period of time in which I was actually living right down the street on Spain Street, and the house actually had an extra room that was our dance room.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it was a shotgun style-esque. Some of these Dorland's houses are weird. So it was my bedroom, the dance room, the kitchen. And you know how you, like, when you're bored, you'll walk to the kitchen and open the fridge just for like lack of something better to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like that's like a common thing everyone does.
Yeah.
But I would like walk through the dance room and I would like see my hoops. Oh. And I would be like, oh, I'm going to do that instead. Also, I would be lying to you if I said I did not watch hella TV while I made art, like frankly.
I do that sometimes too. Like I'll be on a Netflix binge, but I'll paint at the same time.
Exactly.
Because it's something, I don't know, I struggle with keeping things simple sometimes. And I like a lot of stimulation sometimes. Like I have to be doing something, listening to something. And
I actually can't pay attention to the TV if I'm not making art.
I've heard that if you're listening to a lecture, that it's really good to doodle, because there's something that happens in your brain where when you are scribbling on a pad that you can process the information that's given to you. So it might have something to do with that.
I do. I make a lot of origami like art. Like I just fold a lot of paper cranes and then I turn it into like jewelry or mobiles or something.
Yeah.
And like I loved making paper cranes while I was in class back when I was in college. And like I did have one teacher that it irritated, but most of them were like, I don't know, she pays attention fine. Like let her fold the cranes. I'm like, yeah, let me fold these cranes.
They were probably distracted and jealous that they weren't folding cranes.
I agree. Everybody should fold crayons.
I'd like to learn that.
I can show you. It's really easy.
So another artist, she makes unique headdresses, I believe, out of like skulls and things like that.
Oh,
and
so
she lives
cool.
up north. There are a lot of people in New Orleans that do that too. So sometimes there's a traffic flow of like buying each other's art and dead things.
Hell yeah.
From north to south. But Iris Wombat, hi. Sometimes beauty comes from chaos, pain, and tragedy. What was the most beautiful thing you created from personal pain? I like that question.
Oh, me too. I think that the most beautiful thing I created from personal pain would have to be the zine that I curate.
Oh.
I write a lot of poetry, but I was always too like afraid to share it. And then one time I like submitted it to, and of course, like all my poetry comes from pain. That like a lot of not all of my art comes from pain, but my poetry definitely comes from pain.
Interesting.
And I don't know. And this is the screwed up thing because I am bisexual. I do identify as genderqueer, but I wasn't like out on Facebook and I had a boyfriend and I like submitted it to this like queer publication and they were like, sorry, this publication is only for, queer people. And that really hurt me.
That makes me curious what their definition of queer means.
It was just kids at my college and I like asked them about it and they were like, well, you're a girl and you have a boyfriend. And I was like, well, you never asked, like, y'all don't actually know me. Like, we're just friends on Facebook. Like, if instead of just, gatekeeping and saying like, sorry, you're a girl and you only date men, if you had like actually approached me and been like, hey, so like, what is your sexual orientation? And like, what, like, do you like men or do you like both men and women? They just made this like blanket decision that they already knew who I was.
Yeah.
And I was, of course, obviously like really hurt by that. And so I started my own zine. That's kind of, I call it, well, I actually don't want to say on here what it's called.
No problem.
It's kind of like a little secret. I don't want my name on it.
Gotcha.
Because the whole point is just that it's for people who are afraid to be heard. And so I like ask for submissions in the back of it. And it's kind of just like this thing where if you're like too afraid to like submit your work to like a big publication, or you don't think that your art is like good enough to be in a gallery or Pirates Alley or Jackson Square, or like whatever, like if you're afraid to put it out there, like submit it to my zine.
Cool.
And then I can just leave them. Like sometimes I leave them in the grocery store. Like sometimes I leave them we used to leave them at bars, but then they would get wet. So I don't really leave them at bars anymore, but.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
And kind of you put it where the people are and you don't wait for them to go get it.
Yeah. And like a part of why I think it's like the most beautiful thing created from pain is because it's not just about healing my own pain. It's about how I felt like there were probably other people who felt rejected or not good enough or not seen or not heard. And like, here is your outlet. Like, if you feel that way, like here is like a thing for you, that where you can like take that risk and like put your stuff out there and like know that someone is seeing it, someone's appreciating it. And no one cares like if it's gallery worthy or if it's like, good enough to be published in like a poetry journal. Like no one cares. We just want to see you. And I've had like, people write back to me on the email and be like, thank you. And that to me is like more fulfilling than any other part of the project.
Yeah. So you're not just healing yourself, you're healing the people that want that outlet.
Exactly.
And that's really cool because I think a lot of times these things are judged to some degree.
Yeah.
So do you ever not put somebody's art in there for a reason?
The only reason why, and I've never had to do this yet, but there is like, my little, what's the word I'm looking for? Like catch safe. In the thing where I say like I won't publish anything that's like hate speech. So like I'll publish anything. I don't care. I read all of it. Some of it, like, I'm kind of like, this is definitely wouldn't be published, but like, I don't care. I think all of it's beautiful, but like, I wouldn't, if somebody sent me something homophobic, xenophobic, racist, any kind of phobic, like any kind of hate speech. I mean, I don't care if you want to be like, my boyfriend hurt me and I'm mad at him and fuck that dude, or girlfriend or whatever, but don't name them. I'm not going to publish it if you name them.
Right. Or if you're like, fuck all women or fuck all men.
Exactly.
That's pretty evil.
Yeah, exactly. And so that kind of stuff I would never publish. And I say that in the zine. I'm like, I will publish anything except this.
That's good.
So yeah.
I like that idea of putting stuff out in places and leaving it. And do you ask the venues that you leave it, or you just kind of like guerrilla sneak it in there? I just guerrilla
leave it.
I love that. I used to do that when I had a massage therapy business. I don't know if that's a nice thing to do, but I would sneak it in like books about massage or whatever at the library.
I actually think that's adorable.
Would write on sidewalks or something. I love when I see poetry on sidewalks. Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there was a period of time in which I was chalk art bombing New Orleans.
Nice.
Instead of like doing actual graffiti, I was like just using chalk and like painting around the city like that. Because I like the idea that it was temporary,
Yeah.
That I could like deface public property, but no one could be mad at me because as soon as it rains, it'll go away.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you wanted to say?
No,
okay.
You're good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for braving any anxiety you might have had to come do the interview, and also just sharing your story with me and whoever might see this, hopefully more people, because I think not just me, but a lot of other people can relate to what you said and shared.
Oh, thank you.
Would you like to, thank you. Would you like to take us out with one more song, or do you have another little ditty?
Forgive me, heaven, I cannot stay. You cut out my tongue, there is nothing to say. Love me, oh Lord, you threw me away. Laughed at my sins, in his arms I must stay. He wrote, I'm broke. Please send for me, but I'm broken too and spoken for. Do not tempt me. Her skin is white and I'm light as the sun, so holy light shines on the things you have done. So I asked him how he became this man. How did he learn to hold food in his hand? And where is the land that gave you your name? He had to leave, though I begged him to stay. Left me alone and I needed the light. Fell to my knees and I wept for my life. If he had have stayed, you might understand. If he had have stayed, you never would have taken my hand. He wrote, I'm low, please send for me. But I'm broken too and spoken for. Do not tempt me. And where is the land that gave you your name? He had to leave, though I begged him to stay. Begged him to stay in my cold wooden grip. Begged him to stay, by the light of the ship. Me fighting him, fighting light, fighting dawn. And the waves came and stole him and took him to war. He wrote, I'm low, please send for me. But I'm broken too and spoken for. Do not tempt me. Forgive me, Hera, I cannot say. He cut out my tongue, there is nothing to say. Love me, oh Lord. He threw me away, laughed in my sins. In his arms I must stay. We write, and that's alright. I miss his smell. We speak when spoken to, and that suits me well. That suits us well.
Holy crap. Once again, a lot of power coming out of this over here.
I thought that one would be appropriate for the talk.
Yeah, I love it. No,
Thank you.
Who wrote this?
Oh, that one's by Laura Marling. She's amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Highly recommend her.
Laura Marling?
Yeah.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Cool. That's beautiful.
Thank
Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Bad Priestess.
Thank you. Ember.
Awesome.